all need toilet bowl plungers accessible, but we don't like to look at them. The first thing I'm doing is straightening the pool noodle. I'm cutting the pool noodle to slightly longer than the length of the plunger handle. With a small wooden dowel cut to size, I'm twisting it to push through one side of the pool noodle. Now I'm choosing a flower pot that fits the size of the plunger bottom. The flower pot opening is being placed on top of some foam core board, then traced and cut so it fits along the inside ridge of the flower pot. I'm using both an X-Acto knife, then scissors to get the fit just right. Now I'm placing the pool noodle in the middle of the foam core circle, tracing the shape and cutting it out so the bottom of the pool noodle can slip snugly through it. I'm placing them both inside the pot to check the fit and trimming where needed. Then setting it down on a paper-covered floor since this next step is quite messy. Using some expanding insulating spray foam, I'm spraying the top of the pool noodle to create a small rounded mound on top. I'm also spraying some foam onto plastic shaped like rounded raindrops. I added an extra layer to achieve the roundness. Now that the foam is dry, I'm rounding off the top of the pool noodle foam with a large knife so it has a smooth dome transition to the original pool noodle. Using an X-Acto knife, I'm cutting long slits from top to bottom about an inch apart and making 2 additional cuts on each side angled towards the center cut. The triangle shapes are being removed, so I'm left with slightly rounded pointy ridges along all sides of the pool noodle resembling a cactus. You'll want the ridges a little on the thinner side. Next, I'm making cactus arms. The smaller foam pieces are being further shaped into teardrop shapes with one rounded end. Using a knife, then I'm cutting and shaping them with the same kind of ridges. Next, I'm stirring some drywall compound and adding a little water to help soften it up, then icing all the cactus shapes from top to bottom. I found a skim coat on the foam, followed by even more coverage worked best. Once the compound completely covers the cactus, I'm dipping a paintbrush into water, then brushing the compound to smooth out the texture. I'm using the same treatments on the cactus arms as well, so they match. Now that the top coat is dry after about 3 days, it's time to paint the cactus. I'm using 2 tones of green called Park Bench and Conservatory by Fusion Mineral Paint to simulate realistic cactus colors. The large cactus and smaller shapes are being completely painted in the darker green first. Once dry, I'm brushing on the lighter green along each ridge, then spraying it with water and blending the light green into the dark green with a paintbrush. Just remember, if you don't get it right the first time, you can always repaint and try again. You'll get the hang of it very quickly. Now I'm creating faux sand by mixing 2 paint tones into a sandy tone, then adding Fresco by Fusion Mineral Paint, which is a texturizing powder, until I get a thicker oatmeal texture. With the pot temporarily removed, I'm dabbing the texture mixture onto the foam core surrounding the cactus until I get a lumpy look that resembles real sand. More is better this round. To add a little more detail to the sand, I'm splattering on 2 tones of watery brown paint by flicking the paintbrush against a finger. Now I'm weathering the clay pot by painting it with a watered down coat of raw silk, then spraying it with water and wiping most of it off, leaving a lime washed look. With the big cactus now inside the flower pot, I'm cutting the ends of each cactus arm to shape it to the big cactus, then inserting small wooden sticks into each. Hot glue is being used to secure the arms to the body. I'm now touching up any paint that got knocked off. To create cactus prickles, I'm cutting bristles off a chip brush onto a sheet of paper. Using a paintbrush, I'm dabbing generous Mod Podge spots along the ridges of the cactus body and arms, then sticking the bristles on top. And you are left with a whimsical and impossibly cute cactus that completely hides the toilet bowl plunger until you need it. Simply lift the cactus to grab the plunger. I love how realistic this cactus looks thanks to those added prickles and its sandy desert style base. Adding a few rocks and some Spanish moss makes it look like the real thing. And since most bathrooms don't have exceptional light for real plants, this gives you the look without watering a thing. I hope this inspires you to grab a pool noodle to hide your own toilet bowl plunger with a one-of-a-kind cactus of your own. Thanks for watching Hometalk, and we'll catch you next time.
We're going to need 5 soda cans. Make sure they are rinsed out or rinsed out pretty well and dry on the inside. Now we're going to go and take a razor blade. This is one that I have that is a handheld one, and these are so much better to go and use than just a normal blade. Go and cut the top of the can. After you have it at least half of the way cut, you can go and take a pair of scissors and then go and cut off the top of this can. Now, as you're cutting any of these cans, always keep in mind that this does have a sharp lip to it, so try to keep your hands away from it and try to go nice and slow as well. Go and turn your scissors or your blade, and then go and cut off the bottom. Any scraps that you do end up having from this craft, make sure to go and recycle the bottoms, the tops, and pretty much any little bit of this can is recyclable after it's cut. Now go and clean any of this residue that might be in any of the cans, and after they're dried off, we're going to go and flatten them slightly. Go and take the cut piece of aluminum, fold it, make sure you don't really leave a mark in the center. Now we're going to go and cover all of these with just some sort of cloth, and we're just going to apply a small amount of heat to it with an iron or anything that you have like that. It does help to go and flatten it out just slightly. Now let's go and draw some leaves. Do these of different sizes. It should look kind of like what a teardrop looks like, and cut them out. You can fit anywhere between 5 to about 10 of these on every one of these sheets of aluminum. As you're cutting these, go nice and slow. The edges can be very sharp on the can pieces that are cut. Now that we have all of our leaves cut out, let's go and mark it down the center with a metal tool that we have. Go and put some little branches off for the leaf that's there. And it's probably a good idea to go and have a reference up. There's a couple of ways that you can go and do this. You can either go and take this and fold it into the middle up. I will be using these for the end of my longer pieces, or you could just have it like this where it's just slightly curved. Now that all of our leaves are shaped, let's go and cut some floral wire. I'm leaving some of these pieces a bit longer than honestly what I'm going to need, and that is more than fine because if I want to make these larger, I have at least the wire to do so. Now let's take our glue, use a very generous amount of it, put it onto the back end of one of your leaves, and then go and stick down the wire onto this piece. You might have to hold it in place for a couple of seconds, and now for this one, this is one of the pieces that I folded upwards, and I'm sticking this onto the end of this piece of wire that is a lot longer than the other ones that I'm using, and it's about 2.5 feet long. Now let's go and continue to glue down these pieces, and this glue does dry pretty quick, so it took about 1.5 hours for it to be fully dry. Now you can go and spray paint it. I'm starting off with just a very light green base, and after that green base is done, I'm going over everything with a black that is very light. Then I'm just going to wait for this to dry, and really didn't take too long. I did this on a nice and hot day. So after this side is dried, which I honestly still wanted some of the can to be showing at the bottom, I think it looks kind of cool. Now onto the other side, use green spray paint first, a small amount of yellow, and then at the edges of every one of these, use a very light amount of black spray paint. This is going to make it look a bit more plant-like, and it gives it just so much color, and these look so cool after they've dried. And I waited about a day just so everything was fully and totally dried and didn't come apart. Now I'm taking the larger leaves that I have, putting them at the top here, and I'm kind of just going down from there, and continuing to go and attach all of these leaves. Now these pieces have a bunch of wire here, which is fine. I'm just going to cut them, size them a little bit, and then again, go and twist these down. Let's go and grab some wooden dowels. We're going to go and take the wire and twist it around. And make sure it does hang down a good amount. You're going to take at least 2 or maybe 3 of these and have them on wooden dowel. Try to get it centered or close to the center. Now go and fill up your metal tin or your planter. Take the wooden dowel, go and bury it into the dirt that you have here. After it's buried, go and move the pieces of leaves around. Just go and space it slightly, make it look a little bit poofy, and also have some of these pieces hang down. Here's what it looks like so far. It looks pretty cool. And I have this one extra piece that is off to the side, so I'm taking one more wooden dowel, going and twisting it, and like I did with the other one, burying it into the dirt. Now this is what it looks like after it is done, and it honestly looks pretty real. You wouldn't even believe that this was made with aluminum cans. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!